Have you ever found yourself in this emotional overwhelm where you find yourself saying those words, I can't, and yet you're capable of? I recently witnessed this with a client and I resonated with it, but it really touched my heart quite deeply. And I know for many of us women over the age of 55, we find ourselves in what researchers call this sandwich generation, where we're caring for aging parents. We might have adult children or grandchildren. We're trying to navigate the changes that are happening to ourselves and handle our own well-being and careers and whatever else we've got going on. And all of these responsibilities can create these moments where the emotions speak far louder than our capabilities. And today, what I want to do is unpack the connection between our emotions, the overwhelm, and our confidence, and what that might look like. And hopefully this might resonate with you a little bit, just like it did for me as well too. So I want to start by talking about when emotions speak louder than our ability and tell you the story of what happened during this PT session with my client. She is a very, very remarkable woman who is juggling full-time work. She is also caring for both of her aging parents. She was absolutely powering through her training session. We had completed one set. We were partway through a second set, and then suddenly there was that overwhelm, that lack of confidence, and you could see the emotions welling up inside of her. And then she uttered the words, I can't. And what struck me about this was that she physically could do it because she had already done it. So the proof was there. But what happened was there was this storm of overwhelm and emotion and self-doubt that provided this total moment of vulnerability. And she took a moment, she collected herself, she continued, and she pushed through despite that overwhelming feeling and all of those emotions that were within her. But what happened was it got me to thinking about how often we might say, I can't, when we're really experiencing this emotional overwhelm rather than this lack of ability. And so I thought it was a good opportunity to have a look at what the research says about these I can't moments. So when we're under chronic stress, like managing maybe work responsibilities alongside with caring for our family members, our brain's emotional center, which is the amygdala, it becomes hyperactive. It goes into overdrive, while our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for our rational thinking and our self-confidence, becomes underactive. So it gets a little bit sleepy. And so according to the studies published in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine, this stress response can trigger what psychologists call an emotional flooding. And that makes total sense that it would be called emotional flooding because it really does feel like that, doesn't it? I know that's how I've felt. And what's happening is our feelings are temporarily overriding our cognitive abilities, including our accurate assessment of what we can actually do. And so for us women who are over the age of 55, this is particularly relevant because we find ourselves juggling, multiple caretaking roles whilst, trying to navigate the health changes that are going on in our body and the transitions that we might be, stepping into as well too. And so it can be just become too much, right? And so my client's story resonated with me personally because with a woman who is now taking care of young grandchildren, supporting my mother who is in the hospital, running a business. We've got a farm that we maintain. My hubby is older than me a little bit, or a wee bit more than a little bit. And so he has additional things that I need to take into consideration as well too. So I totally get handling and juggling and having all these multiple responsibilities and how all of a sudden it can go wham and hit you. And as I was talking with my client after we finished the session, I really said to her, I want to acknowledge you because I get it. And even there is no comparison between our situations. They might feel similar because we're both juggling different lots of responsibilities. But you are handling this all on your own. There is nobody else. It is you. And that is a huge amount of pressure. So when we're overwhelmed like that, our emotional responses, they aren't just immediate to that task at hand. So this wasn't about the exercise. It wasn't about the thing that she thought she couldn't do. It was about everything else that we have been carrying up until that point. And Dr. Louisa Dillon, who is an Australian psychologist specialising in women's midlife transitions, she noted that this I can't moment is rarely about that specific task, but it's often the point where all of those things, all of the physical as well as the emotional things, and that constant stress on us as women finally demands some type of acknowledgement. And I know this to be true because I've personally experienced this just recently. And I could feel my nervous system, just peaking. It was each day was getting worse and worse and worse. And I still did nothing about it until there was that moment where it was like, oh my God, this has just taken over me and I need to do something about it. And so what ended up happening for me personally is I needed to backtrack first to find out where it all started happening, what I was carrying, what might have been that thing that is pushing me over the limit, and what can I do about it. And so I know for me, I needed to set some boundaries for myself and for my family. So how we all handle these moments of I can't might be very different. But one of the ways that we might be able to do this is to reframe those I can't moments into I need moments. So when my client said that she can't, what she was really doing, and this was the powerful thing that I wanted to acknowledge for her, was that she was really saying, I need this moment to acknowledge how much that I'm carrying. And I need to recognize my emotions rather than pushing them down. I need support, even though I'm handling all of these things by myself. This also got me to thinking about my mum, who, when we were talking with the social worker this week, because she is a woman who has always been able to do everything herself, has always been very, very independent, to actually ask for help is a massive thing. And I know for her, there was that little bit of pushback. And I said, what if we looked at it from this perspective? You know, what if instead of you simply saying, I need to get up early and I need to ring a cab because she doesn't drive to get to, your podiatrist appointment. What if we simply said, I need help to get to that appointment and back home from that appointment? It's not that someone's doing it for you. It's just that they're going to take you there and support you through that. And so when she looked at it from a different perspective, she started to go, okay, yes. And so there were other little things like, the cooking situation. It's like, well, what if we had someone do your meals a couple of days a week? And so we now have the wheels in motion to get these things happening for her, which not only helps her, but it also helps me at the same time. And so that's where these reframes, like I can't to I need, can be those total breakthroughs. And I know for my client during that session, it wasn't the fact that she pushed through and did all that training. That wasn't the victory here. The victory was that it was the honesty around the emotion and the acknowledgement that things felt hard, even though they were technically possible. And the fact that she then said, I'm going to talk to someone, I've got something booked in today, which was fabulous, that she is acknowledging that she needs that help. And I think there's that profound strength in that acknowledgement when we know things feel difficult. And it isn't always about pushing through the moments, it's about allowing ourselves to feel it, to be true to ourselves and express the weight of what we're carrying rather than soldiering through in silence. Now, each of these sessions, I like to finish up with these move moments. And sometimes they actually are moving, and sometimes they're moving from an emotional perspective rather than a physical perspective. And today I want to call this the compassionate pause. So if you feel yourself, your system getting overwhelmed, if you feel like you're about to peak at something, you feel overwhelmed or you feel a little bit teary, and maybe you're about to say those words, I can't, stop what you're doing and just feel yourself, put your hand on your chest, on your heart, and just take some nice, deep, slow breaths. Even close your eyes if you can. And just say to yourself, this moment is difficult. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. And then ask yourself, what do I actually need? Maybe that pause moment needs to be a little bit longer, or maybe you've got the answer right then. But then decide mindfully whether to continue, whether you need to modify, or whether we need to pause that little bit longer. So this practice will help you reconnect your emotional and your thinking brain, which, if you recall, I was saying one becomes overactive and one becomes underactive. And what we're trying to do is balance them out. And it allows yourself that place of self-compassion rather than self-criticism. And I honestly think that we can all get that little bit overwhelmed at times and feel like the emotions are getting on top of us. Maybe these little pause moments are exactly what we need. So today, what we've talked about is these I can't moments, and they're not often about the capabilities, but they're more about our emotional overwhelm. And so we've learned about how these moments are often a signal to us that we're carrying too much. And that if we notice these I can't moments and we practice our compassionate pause and we try reframing I can't to I need, what it is that we need help with or what we need to put in place, then we're acknowledging that experience for ourselves. And it gets a little bit easier. Doesn't necessarily go away straight away, but it does get a little easier. And I really want to finish with, remember that showing your emotion isn't about weakness. You're not weak at all. It is showing you have the strength to acknowledge that things are hard. And so the victory isn't pushing through, but it's about being honest about the struggles that you're having right now. Hopefully you have got something out of today. And if you have, please post below and share a little bit of how you've taken away something today and you've used it to help yourself keep moving forward. And remember, it is okay to feel your emotions and pause. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.